What is good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. In today's video, we're going to be going back and taking a look at the UFC Fight Night, which went down on Saturday night with Jan Blachowicz taking on Alexander Rakic. I'm going to be giving you my reaction and thoughts, not only to the fights, but to my picks as well. If you do enjoy the video, guys, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. I talk a lot about MMA and boxing. If that's something you might enjoy, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Let's go. So yeah, this video was going to go up yesterday, guys, but I had a few problems with my OBS, so I'm kind of a bit late to the party when it comes to talking about this event, but we'll do it either anyway because I did my pick, so I might as well react to them. I ended up picking Rakic in the fight, which ended up being the wrong pick. He seemed to sustain some sort of really nasty leg injury in the third round, and from what I've seen online, I think I follow a YouTuber, Dr. Brian Sutura, I want to say his name is, and he does a great job at breaking down certain injuries in sports, and he said the way it looked to him, it looks like it was an ACL tear, so it was a real nasty one for Rakic. But I think there were still some quite big takeaways from the fight. I think Jan Blachowicz showed some brilliant defense. I think, you know, in his last out against Glover Teixeira, he didn't look like the fighter he seemed to have, you know, become over the past, 5 or so years, where he's really improved his game. And, he just looked like he had a really off night in that fight. And, he looked brilliant, I thought, against Alexander Rakic. I thought Rakic didn't really do anything too wrong. I think, out of the two, you could probably say that Jan Blachowicz was the more, I guess his shots were the more accurate of the two, and his shots had more meaning behind them than some of Rakic's. I know Rakic did seem to throw a lot of leg kicks, but Jan Blachowicz, man, his leg kick defense is one of the best in the world, in my opinion, in MMA, because, a lot of fighters in the modern game have, adapted to, bringing the leg kicks into their offense, but you don't see all that many of them having great defense against it. And Jan Blachowicz, he was firing his own, but his defense was checking basically every kick. And I was really impressed with Jan. I thought some of his striking looked really clean. Obviously, he did sustain the cut on the left eye, just on the inside, and it looked like quite a nasty one. And I was kind of a bit worried for Jan in that moment in time, because I thought, that with the position of it, the blood could have become a problem in the eye. But not only that, the position of it looked nasty, because it's a bit of a weird one we don't normally see, which is like right on the inside of the eye. And I thought if it could have got any worse, they might have stopped the fight. I think in round 2, Rakic did a great job getting a takedown, and Jan Blachowicz showed some more parts of his game which I wasn't really too familiar with in his ground game, because he looked decent off his back, throwing up a couple of submissions. He didn't really get close with anything, but the threat was still there for Alexander Rakic. But Rakic did a great job holding position on Jan, but he wasn't really able to get off some meaningful ground and pound. But he won the round nevertheless, and went into the third, and it was kind of like a rerun of the first round, and Jan really took it to Rakic again. And for me, the leg kicks what Jan was throwing, I'm not sure if it really affected the injury, but the lead leg was really torn up of Rakic, and then that was just before he sustained the injury on the right leg. So it was a disappointing one for Rakic, and I think disappointing for Jan as well, because from what was happening in the fight, you could probably, make a case that Jan would have probably run away with the rest of the fight and, probably won a fairly clinical decision against Alexander Rakic, and it would have been a great win for him. Probably would have put him back in the title fight once again, and he probably would have fought the winner of Glover versus Yuri Prochazka. But now it's kind of brought up the question, does Jan deserve another title shot straight away just off this win? And for me, it is a hard one to decide. I think that, Jan, yes, he's been really good over the past 5 years, and he won the bout and defended it against Izzy. Did a great job winning it in the first place against Dominic Reyes, and he just didn't look himself in the Glover fight. So if Glover was to win, I would like to see him run it back. But I think the fight with Yuri would be super fun as well. But does this victory alone mean that he should necessarily get it straight away when you've had someone like Ancalia, who's been on a really good streak in the light heavyweight division? I would actually really like to see potentially an Anthony Smith versus Jan Blachowicz matchup, because I think Anthony Smith will give him problems, and if he could pass that test, then maybe he's deserving of the title shot once again. And I'd like to see Ancalia go up against Paul Craig again, because I think if he could avenge his defeat against Paul Craig from a few years back, he would have push himself right back into that number one position. They are talking about doing Ancalia versus Smith on UFC, what's it called? International Fight Week. So that's going to be an interesting one. But I would like to see a fight between Smith and Blachowicz, because I think their styles mix really well. But it's probably not going to happen, and I think Jan's probably going to get the title shot straight away. And for me, I'm not too bothered about it. I think, for someone who's put in the work that Jan has, he probably deserves it overall. It's just, it's a bit of a disappointing one for not only Jan, I think. Obviously, he'll be happy with the win, but I'm sure it's not the way he wanted to get it. I'm sure he would have preferred a decision or a finish. But, it is what it is. And if he gets it, I don't think you can really turn your nose up at it at all. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with potentially the winner of Glover versus Yuri against Blachowicz down the line. We'll get into the co-main event. Ryan Spann picks up the win via guillotine on Ion Cutelaba. I thought, Cutelaba looked good early on and got the takedowns. Kind of had Spann in some problems. And, I thought coming into the fight, I picked Cutelaba as well. So that's 2 wrong already. I thought he would just have that ability to have more grit and more will in the fight, and maybe be able to get a decision or a gritty sort of finish in the fight, but it wasn't to be. And I think Cutelaba's got a problem where some of his best attributes are because of the way he fights, and he is a bit reckless, but some of the other things which are his weaknesses are the fact that he overextends himself and he puts himself in bad positions. And for me, it's going to be interesting to see, how can he evolve as a fighter, because I think if he wants to get to the top of this light heavyweight division, I think a lot's got to change. For Ryan Spann, I don't think this victory is all too much for him. I think it was a big victory in terms of the fact that he was able to show perseverance and, overcome the early sort of pressure from Cutelaba. But in terms of the opponent with a name to really boost yourself up the rankings, and I'm not too sure Cutelaba was going to be that for Spann, and I don't think he has been. I think Spann's probably got another couple tough fights if he wants to get into the UFC top 5 in the light heavyweight rankings, and I'm not too sure he's going to get there. I think his skill set, he's shown to be not necessarily the most well-rounded of fighters. I think he is vulnerable in certain areas, and I think Cutelaba kind of exposed some of them. I think you can get Spann down. The thing which makes it difficult to fight Spann, he's so athletic and powerful, and like he showed, he's a very strong guy as well. That guillotine he put on quick, and it was hard for Cutelaba, and he ended up tapping. It's interesting to see what they're going to do with Spann now. I think he could, if they could market him right, I think he could be in a couple of big fights, but I think he's got a tough road ahead of him. We move on to my fight of the night, which didn't end up getting it. Davy Grant against Lewis Smolka. I picked Davy Grant, I believe. I think I might have picked him just because he was English, and I'm a big fan of his. But man, this was my fight of the night. I think both guys had success in the fight. I think Davy Grant came out really hot and was doing some great work. But I think what you see with Grant a lot is he does load up quite a bit, and his opponent seems to come into the fight as the fight moves on. And I think that was the same in this fight. I thought he landed some real damaging blows on Smolka early on in the first round. But in the second round, Smolka was able to get his wits about him and kind of, start basically taking his time more, I feel like, and just picking his shots. And he was having a lot of success. And, I think he cut Davy Grant at one point. But after the third round, going into the third round, Davy Grant's coaches told him to go back to the leg kicks, and it would open up, Smolka up top for the hands. And, you know, those leg kicks were absolutely brutal. The fight would have been stopped anyway because Smolka wasn't going to be able to stand. But Davy Grant left no doubt, and he followed him to the ground when he dropped him with the leg kicks, and he knocked him out cold. It was a real brutal one. I feel a bit bad for Smolka because, you know, he's always been a real fun action sort of fighter in the UFC, and he hasn't been able to be as consistent as he's wanted to be in the past. And for him to come back like this and, you know, with a knockout like that, he's going to be out for a while again now. It's a real shame because, you know, especially when he was at flyweight, he was super fun, but I think his frame is definitely more suited for this UFC bantamweight division, and I'm interested to see, you know, what sort of development he could go under and, you know, the sort of matchups he could get in the future. And it's disappointing that we're not going to be able to see him for probably another 6 months, but, you know, hopefully he can recover from his injury, well, from the knockout and probable concussion, and you know, I hope all is well with him. But Davy Grant proving once again that he is one of the most entertaining fighters in the UFC, and he just flies under the radar, man. His fights have been awesome, every single one of them, especially over the past 2 years. You know, the last defeat was against Chito Vera, I believe, and, you know, you can hold your head out, you can hold your head up high after that one because Chito has proven what a beast he is. But I thought he looked brilliant once again. Grant, always entertaining. I do think, you know, he could probably look to not load up as much at certain times in the fight, but, you know, I think in the third round he started to let things go a bit looser, and I thought he you know, it paid dividends in the end. And I'm really interested to see what sort of matchups they make now in the future with David Grant, because, you know, such a fun action fighter. You know, he's always going to bring it. You can stick him on these UFC fight night main cards, even in a co-main on the main card, you know, and you know he's going to do the business just because of the sort of fighter he is. And, you know, for the UK as well, I think a lot of people will be getting behind Dangerous Davy. So yeah, I cannot wait to see him fight again. And in my opinion, he was robbed of the bonus. We'll go quickly now through the rest of them. Chookagian beating Hebas. I mean, for me, Chookagian's a fighter who's so underrated. I don't think she's ever going to be on the level of someone like a Valentina Shevchenko. And if she was to beat Shevchenko, it would be because Shevchenko had, you know, fallen off so far. But, you know, for all the other girls in the 125-pound division, they're going to struggle, because if they're going to force girls to go through Chookagian to get to the Valentina fight, then you're not going to have too many contenders. We've seen only, you know, the elite kind of beat her. You know, she's beaten Lauren Murphy and, you know, I mean, Hebas here as well. But, you know, Andrade beat her, and Andrade is so powerful, and it was a real tough matchup for her. But Chookagian against the rest, man, she's a problem. Her striking is really clean. She doesn't load up at all. You know, I don't think she's got any finishes, actually. I think I was listening to a podcast and someone was talking about the fact she doesn't have any finishes, so I think that's right. So yeah, she doesn't really have that power, but because she doesn't, she kind of lets everything go, and, you know, she's a high volume fighter, and she's always in fun fights as well. I think the fact that she doesn't get, you know, necessarily finishes is a kind of a hold back on her popularity maybe, but for me, I've always enjoyed watching her. I thought Hebas did a great job in this fight as well. You know, I think the better girl won on the night, but I think Hebas is going to continue to win fights. I think ultimately she needs to get in the win column once again, because the back-to-back losses, it's not a good look for her. But either way, she put on a performance and showed what sort of fighter she is. I'm really looking forward to seeing Amanda in the future. I think she can make a run towards, you know, the top 2 or 3 of the division in either 125 or 115. I'd actually like to see her stay at 125 pounds, see if she can mount some sort of success there. For Chookagian, she'll just keep doing what she's doing, and she's going to be in the title shot in no time. I think I did pick Chookagian in this fight, but I could be wrong. I didn't pick these 2 fights, but I was very impressed with both of the fights. I thought Alan Nascimento looked impressive against Jake Hadley from the UK, who was undefeated coming into this fight. Very dominant on the ground, and, you know, I wasn't too familiar with either of these guys. I don't think I've seen them before off the top of my head, but you see so many fighters now in combat sports world, it's like, you know, it's hard to keep up. But yeah, I thought Nascimento, he looked dominant on the ground. He was able to control Hadley at times. Hadley did look to scramble a few times, but Nascimento didn't seem to have too many problems. I thought Hadley looked the better of the two on the feet, but was unable to, continue to fight, with both standing. And I think for Hadley, he does look like he's got a bright future in the UFC. I think in terms of his striking, he looks real clean, crisp, real quick as well at 125. So it's going to be interesting to see what sort of matchup they give him next. They're going to give him maybe a bit more of an easier fight, because I think if you look at the 125-pound division, it does kind of lack that English representative, I guess you could say. I think Hadley could do that, and I think he's 8-1 now in his career. I'm more actually interested to see him in the future now than I am Nascimento, but nevertheless, Nascimento impressive as well. Camacho got knocked out in the first round against Manuel Torres, who looked very impressive. It was a bit of a slugfest for as long as it lasted, but the better man got the job done at the end of the day, and I was impressed, and probably deserving of a performance of the night win. Maybe if they give it knockout of the night. But for me, I think David Grant was fired tonight. I think he got robbed. Either way, we'll go to the prelims quickly. I did pick these fights. I did pick Andrea Lee to win, and she did almost get the result, especially in the first round where she was able to rock Viviane on the feet and then drop her with that lead head kick. And for me, it looked like Viviane was out, but somehow she recovered and ended up getting the victory in the end. I think Andrea Lee coming away from this fight is going to be disappointed in herself. I think it was a close fight, but I think Viviane probably deserved it in the end. And, I think Andrea has got to start maybe finding a way to be a bit more dominant in certain rounds. I thought she would have the better of her on the feet, but, when Viviane was able to get to the fight to the floor, she was very dominant. Unfortunately for Viviane Araújo, she's not going to be getting the respect she deserves after this fight, even though it was an amazing performance. The main talking point from this fight has ended up being Andrea Lee's cornerman, who's also a fighter in the UFC, making some sketchy comments which could be taken in a way of being racial. And for me, just a fucking idiot. Andrea Lee, I don't know what her problem is. She's if you're surrounding yourself with people who are constantly making bad decisions, like her ex-partner with the fucking Nazi tattoos, and this guy making comments like that, you got to kind of take a look at yourself in the mirror and, make a decision with your life about the people you surround yourself with, because I don't think if I found out that one of my friends were, a bit sketch like that, I would really question myself. And I think she needs to do that. But, the credit should be going to Viviane after this fight. People should be talking about her performance. It's definitely going to propel her back up in this UFC flyweight division where she was looking very promising before. I'm interested to see what matchups could happen for her. And I think, over time, like the UFC has done, I think now we're seeing, in the men's division, the 125 division is starting to really heat up. And I think in a few years, it might be one of the better divisions in the UFC, like top 3. At this moment in time, I probably don't think it is, but you look with the talent of like a Match Now, Brandon Royval, and the guy we're going to get to in a little bit, Tatsuro Taira, some really young guys at the top of the division, Brandon Moreno. It's really coming along as one of the stronger divisions in the UFC. And I think UFC's women's flyweight division is going to struggle because of the dominance of Valentina. But we're starting to see more and more talented girls make their way into the division, whether they're coming down or up from other divisions in the UFC, or if they're coming in from different promotions or something like that, And I think it's probably going to take a while because of Valentina. Whenever she falls off, I think we're going to see this division kind of hot up the way when Rousey did at a woman's 135-pound. But yeah, interesting. Can't wait to see Viviane back in action. I think she's a fun fighter in the women's division, and I know she's a fan favourite. Michael Johnson against Alan Patrick. I picked Johnson in this fight, so I'm very happy with this one. I just didn't think this kid could go on forever, man. I thought, he's too good to be losing against someone the level of Alan Patrick, and I think he proved that in this fight. He looked very solid on the feet. Yes, he got clipped a couple times by Patrick, but I never really thought Johnson was in that much trouble. I think on the feet, he's lightning quick, and yes, he's got power, but for me, it's more of a speed and the timing accuracy that he's able to make it to the target, which gives guys problems. Able to finish Patrick in the second round, but for me, I think Johnson does have another run left in him. I'm not sure where that run's going to take him. I'm glad he's come back to 155 pounds. The experiment at featherweight really didn't seem to work out. And he's looked good in fights before and kind of lost it in the second round. The fight I think about is the Thiago Moises fight, where he looked brilliant in the first round, and then as soon as Thiago Moises was able to kind of get a hold of him and get him to the ground, it was all over. But for Mike Johnson, I think he's got gaping holes in his game when it comes defensively, and probably mistakes-wise, I think he makes more mistakes than other elite fighters. But I think if he could sharpen these sort of things up, he could be back in, the top 15 of the 155-pound division in not too much time, because he's so talented on the feet with his natural, and I'm sure he's worked hard on his trade, but some of the natural ability, whether it comes from the hand speed, he's so gifted, and he's going to give anyone a hard time as long as the fight's standing. You think back to the wins over Barboza, Ferguson, Dustin Poirier is the one I remember the most off the top of my head. I always say it, when he's doing this with the smug face, because he's talking about money. But yeah, impressive from Michael Johnson, and I think if we could see him in the octagon a bit more active, like let's say we could get him in there another couple times this year, I think if he could rack up another 2 victories, 2023 could be a really sick year for Michael Johnson. We'll move to this fight. I picked Angelina Hill. I was wrong. Angela hit, I don't know what's the matter with my head. I've just gone foggy. But yeah, I picked Hill to beat Jandiroba. I was wrong. For me, I just don't think. I think sometimes Angela Hill does look a little bit. She's not able to sustain her offense, I feel like, at times, and I feel like some girls are able to push her away from her fight, and she struggles to get back into it. And I felt like it was kind of that in this fight. I know she's been in some really other competitive fights in this division and been screwed on the cards at times, and come up short. But I think in this fight, it's tough because Angela's getting a bit on now. She's not the youngest girl in the division by a long way, and I don't know if it's a confidence issue or something like that, because I think Angela on the feet has got a lot of skills which could give a lot of girls problems, but I just feel like other girls are able to take her out of her game maybe a little bit too easily. But I'm not too sure. I definitely think she's super talented, especially on the feet in close range. I think she, from head to toe, she's dangerous, whether it be the hands or the legs. And I'm disappointed because I really enjoy watching Angela fight. I'd have loved to see her got the win in this one, and maybe pushed on to get on a bit of a streak. But I'm sure she can come back even stronger, and I hope she does. Jandiroba, on the other hand, an impressive victory. I'm not too sure what the future holds in store for her. I'd be really interested if I could go into the future and ask, what's the highest point she gets to in the division. I'd be interested if she gets above maybe 5. I think 5 would be her height, her maximum ceiling. And if she got above that, I'd be really surprised. But congratulations to her, commiserations to Angela. And this fight now is one of the fights I was most interested in. Not before it, but after it, I'm super interested in this guy. Obviously, I don't really know the level of Carlos Candelario, but he got pieced up on the feet and on the floor. I thought he was actually decent defensively. He was able to keep himself out of trouble a lot of the times, but some of the transitions from Tatsuro Tyro, I think they're calling him, on the floor, the way he was able to move so fluently from holding the back and to mount, and then the way Carlos was moving around and he was able to control and keep on the back was really impressive. And on the feet, he looked brilliant. And I think this guy's got a lot of talent. Still really young. I think he's 22 or 23. I think this kid's going to go far. I think he might be I think he might be a future champ. Obviously, I haven't seen him that much, and I'm only gonna get to know him over the course of his next fights in the UFC. But I think from the look of it, you know, we don't know if he can really take a shot or anything yet. But skill wise, he's definitely up there. I love the thought of, you know, in like a few years' time, him versus a Kai Kara France or a Royval or a Schnall even. You know, there's so many fun matchups coming in this men's 125-pound division. I just need a drink quickly. But yeah, for me, it's this guy's super talented. I cannot wait to see him get back in there. Only the decision, but you know, I think if he would have pushed a little bit harder, he probably could have got a finish in there, whether it be from submission. I think it was hard for him to get the submission. I thought Carlos looked good defensively, even when the back was taken. But maybe you could have got him out of there with some ground and pound, or maybe even on the feet, to be honest. But really interested in Tyra. Can't wait to see him fight again. Looks really talented. Maximov lost against Andre Petroski in the first round. I couldn't think for the life of me how I knew Maximov before the fight. I was like, I've seen his face before. I didn't look at his record beforehand. And now I remember who he is. He's kind of the one from Stockton, California. And I think a lot of people are talking quite big about him, but he got handled quickly by Petroski. I'm not sure what sort of choke it was. I think it looked a bit like a DARS. Could be wrong though. It could have been anything. But yeah, Petroski was able to kind of force Maximov into shooting early. He was able to sprawl heavily. And when he got that choke in, Maximov was fucked because that guy had it in tight. He had to readjust it a couple times, but it was a good job from Petroski. And, you know, definite setback for Maximov. He's been talking about fights against Chimaev and stuff like that in the future. I don't like his odds after watching that one, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see. I think, has he got talent? 100%. What's his ceiling? I haven't got a fucking clue with this guy. You know, I think at times he's looked really good, and then at other times he's looked bad, like in this fight. But then again, you know, it's MMA, and it's such a hard sport, and people get caught all the time. Maybe it's just this occasion for Nick, but I'm sure he'll be back, and hopefully he can put on a performance. Congratulations to Andre Petroski. You know, guy was talking about how good his wrestling is. I'd really like to see him back in the octagon and see what sort of level of competition he could go up against next. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, like I said, let me know in the comments down below if you think Jan Blachowicz is worthy of an immediate title fight after this victory against Rakic. For me, I don't necessarily think so, but I'm not too bothered either way. I wouldn't mind seeing him back in there. But yeah, guys, if you have enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Like I said, comment down below. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos I'm going to be bringing out. I was going to do one on Charlo and Castagna too, but I'm going to leave that now. I'm probably just going to do my UFC Fight Night picks for this week tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Take care. Have a good one, and I'll see you later. Peace.